Hello, operator. Can you please connect me with OTR Halloween Holidays? I don't want to miss this episode of the Bah Ghoulie Show.
Death is a savage deity.
Is that you, Dolores?
Yes, Warner. Don't stop playing. I heard the music coming from the conservatory, so I stopped by. What are you playing?
Just a simple melody of my own.
So weird. I thought possibly you were playing a dirge.
A dirge?
Yes. Or Andrews.
I fear neither dirge nor prayers nor candles burned on the altar will do Andrews any good.
Oh, Warner, what made him do it? He was always so happy, so full of the love of life. Why did he do such a thing?
He was blind. He couldn't stand the thought of being without the use of his eyes, so...
Yes, but if only...
I cautioned him. Over and over again, I warned him to take care of his eyes. But he wouldn't listen to me. Now he's dead.
Poor Andrews.
I suppose you and James will postpone your marriage a while, Dolores?
Yes, I think it's best, don't you? It wouldn't be quite decent to have a funeral today and a wedding day after tomorrow, would it?
I wouldn't permit it in my home. And this is still my house, you remember. Oh, now, who's that? Yes, come in. All right, Alma, what is it?
Beg your pardon, Miss Jarvis.
All right, out with it. Don't stand there stammering.
Yes, Miss Jarvis. It's for Miss Dolores. Mr. Harvey's here.
Oh, Jim said he'd drop by.
Shall I show him in here, Miss Dolores?
Yes, please do.
Yes, ma'am.
By the way, Alma.
Yes, ma'am?
How does your head feel today?
Not so good, ma'am. It ached me all night long. I didn't get much sleep to speak of.
Perhaps you should go to a doctor, Alma.
I did, Miss Dolores. Yesterday. He said there was nothing wrong with me, but I know better. My head hurts something fierce all the time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll show Mr. Harvey right in.
Hello.
Hello, Jim.
Oh, Dolores, my dear, you look tired. How are you, Miss Jarvis?
Very well, thank you.
Oh, Jim, I'm glad you stopped by. We've rather had the doldrums around here the past day or so.
Yes, I know. I thought I'd stop by now and be here for the funeral this afternoon.
Poor Andrews. You loved him too, didn't you, Jim?
Yes, dear. I guess I did. I've known Andrews almost as long as you have.
Well, all I can say is I warned him again and again. If he'd only listened to
Auntie,
me...
please. Jim, let's go outside and get some air. I've been in the house all day.
All right, dear.
You'd both better stay around close. I may need you.
All right, Warner. We'll probably be in the garden.
Very well. Oh, Jim,
Yes?
remember about the lily pond.
Oh, yes, of course I will.
It's dangerous, you know. Be careful of it, Jim. Don't get too near to its edge.
Yes, I'll remember. Come, dear.
Jim,
Yes, dear?
what did she mean about the lily pond?
Oh, Don't you remember that the railing around the pond was taken down for repairs? Hasn't been replaced yet.
Yes, I know, but it's been down for almost a month. Here, let's walk on the grass, shall we? Why does she remind you about it now?
Well, she probably doesn't want us to fall into it and soil our pretty clothes.
But she seems so insistent. She said it's dangerous for you to be careful of it. For you not to go too near its edge. You, Jim, not me.
Oh, she meant both of us, silly. She just addressed me because she wants me to take care of you.
Does she?
Why, of course she does. What do you mean?
Jim, I've had the impression for a long time now that she doesn't want us to be married.
Oh, nonsense. She's delighted.
No, she's not delighted.
But Dolores...
I've wanted to tell you this for a long time. But I've hesitated to say anything. I thought I might have been mistaken. Now I know it's true. She hates you, Jim.
Juana hates me? Why, of all the silly things I've ever heard of, Juana and I are great friends.
Oh, darling, you're wrong. Juana has no love for you. I don't know why, but she'll be perfectly delighted if you and I never marry.
Dolores.
Jim, I want to be married just as soon as we possibly can. Then I want to go away from here.
Away? Where, dear?
I don't care where. Just so it's someplace else, anywhere but here.
But, darling, I thought you loved this place.
Love it. I despise it.
Dolores.
I do, Jim. Oh, darling, I'm so upset. There's something terrible going on around here. I don't know what it is. But it was responsible for Andrew's death.
Darling, how can you say that?
Because I know.
You know what?
There was nothing wrong with Andrew's eyes.
What?
No. Nothing at all wrong with them.
But he went blind. The autopsy proved it. Well, that's why...
I know. He died blind, yes. But I went with him to an optometrist about a week ago. Andrews had perfect vision in both eyes, and no sign of defect or weakness.
But, Dolores, that's not possible.
I know, but it happened.
But how? How, dear?
I can't answer that. Oh, Jim, look out!
Good Lord!
Oh, dearest, the lily pool, you almost walked right into it.
Yeah. I thought it was over farther to the east end of the garden.
I don't know why we should be so frightened of it. It's quite shallow. Even if one of us did accidentally fall in, we'd only get a bit wet.
Is that all that would happen?
Jim, what do you mean?
I wonder. Come on, dear. We'd best be getting back to the house. I want to brush up a bit before the crowd begins to drift in.
Dolores, will you play the organ a while? I'd like some music.
Do you mind if I don't, Auntie? I'm rather tired.
Look here, Dolores. How about a swim down on the beach? The moon's up. It's quite warm tonight.
Jim, I think I'd like that.
Certainly, if you're too tired to play the organ, you're too tired to swim.
Oh, it'll be good for her, Miss Jonas. She needs some fresh air and exercise.
Yes, Auntie. You don't mind so much, do you?
No, I suppose not.
Good. Is there a suit in the men's quarters of the bathhouse I can use?
Yes, you'll find several there, James. Take your choice.
Oh, fine. Come along, Dolores.
No, let's not go that way, Jim. Let's take the back door and cut through the garden to the bathhouse.
All right, dear.
We won't be long, Auntie. Just a plunge and we'll be right back.
Very well. Oh, James,
Yes, Miss Jonas?
remember about the lily pond.
Oh, yes. Oh, all right.
It's still quite dangerous, you know. Don't get too close to its edge. You may fall into it.
Yes, all right. We'll be careful, Miss Jonas. We can see it all right in the moonlight.
Come on, Jim. There. You see? She keeps reminding you about the lily pond.
Oh, well, that just proves she doesn't want anything to happen to me. I told you she doesn't dislike me.
Jim, don't you think for a moment she doesn't. She dislikes you terribly. I think she even dislikes me.
But why? Good heavens, Dolores. She took you in when you were a mere infant, less than 3 years old. She's kept you. Clothes, a fine home, everything.
Yes, I know it. Still, she hates me.
Dolores, I don't understand. If you've known this all along, why didn't you say something to me about it?
Because it's just recently she's changed. I don't know why she's changed, but she has.
Well, dear, suppose we forget everything for a while. This has been a trying day for all of us. Come on. I'll race you down to the bathhouse.
Well, Jim must not be dressed yet. It's odd. He had plenty of time. Jim? Jim, do you hear me? Are you in the bathhouse, Jim? Jim? What's that over there? Surely it got... Oh, no. Jim? Jim? The lily pond. His head beneath the water. The lily stems around his throat. Oh, Jim. Jim, my darling, what happened to you, Jim?
Please, try not to think about it. It's all over now, and there's nothing to be helped by thinking about it.
But how did it ever happen to him?
Dolores, you heard the coroner's verdict. Jim must have wandered over to the lily pond while waiting for you to finish dressing. He apparently stumbled and fell, striking his head on a rock, becoming unconscious. He fell with his head under water, and it strangled him.
Oh, it was so sudden. If I'd only been a little quicker dressing, I might have saved him.
Don't think of that, dear. We can't help what's happened. Lie still, dear. I'll answer it. Hello? Yes, Mr. Evans? Yes? Very well. I'll come to your office right away. Yes, within the hour. Very well. Goodbye. Oh, Dolores, I'm sorry, but I'll have to leave you a while. That was my lawyer. And there's some very important papers I must attend to immediately.
I'll be all right, Auntie.
I'll send Almain to take care of you. But I'm afraid she won't be of much help. She's been complaining of headache constantly, night and day.
Did you call me, Miss Dolores?
Yes, several times. You were so long answering.
I'm sorry, Miss Dolores. I was downstairs. Can I do something for you, ma'am?
Yes, Alma. I want the key to this room.
That room, Miss Dolores?
Yes, and I want it right away. My aunt has kept this room locked for 18 years. She's always told me she wants no one in there because her father died in that room.
Yes, ma'am. That's it. Nothing else.
I'm not so sure. I intend to go inside that room now. Get me the key.
Oh, Miss Dolores, I beg you, ma'am. Don't go into that room. Whatever you do, ma'am, in the name of heaven, don't go into that room.
Why not? Tell me, Alma. What's in there?
It's frightful, ma'am. Please listen to me. My head's a-splitting. I'm a sick woman. I'm almost a dead woman. But with the life that's left in me, I plead with you not to enter that room.
Alma, stop this nonsense.
It's not nonsense, miss. There's worse than the devil in there.
Alma, do you have the key? Answer me. Do you have the key to that room?
Yes, ma'am. That I have. I stole it from Miss Jarvis a month ago.
Then let me have it. Give it to me. At once.
I'll open the door. There you are, ma'am. I'll turn on the light.
Why? Well, this room is empty. Nothing here but an old table covered with a huge black cloth.
That's all, miss. Come now. Let's shut off the light and lock the door.
No. Wait a minute. What's on that table?
Please, Miss Dolores. Don't go near that table.
I want to see.
I ask you not to, Miss Dolores.
Dolls. 4 little dolls. Each about 12 inches tall, lying here on the table.
Please come away, Miss Dolores.
Good heavens. This doll looks exactly like Andrew's. Look. Lying there on his back, with a common pin stuck squarely in the middle of each eye.
He went blind, Miss Dolores.
Good heavens. An exact image of Jim Harvey, lying with his head submerged in a miniature lily pond.
Mr. Harvey died in a lily pond, in the garden.
This doll, Alma, it's an image of you, with a pin stuck into its head.
Oh, Miss Dolores, ma'am, my head's killing me with its aching.
Alma, this 4th doll,
it's you, Miss Dolores.
with another pin stuck into the doll's body so it pierces the heart.
Don't you feel pains in your heart, Miss Dolores?
Alma, what in the world does all this mean?
It's witchcraft.
Witchcraft?
Black magic.
But I don't understand.
It's Miss Jarvis, your aunt. First, she convinced Andrews he was going blind. Then she convinced Mr. Harvey he'd die in the lily pond. And now she's trying to kill me with a headache. And you with a heart attack.
But how? How?
They use it where she came from, miss. Where she came from years ago.
Where was that?
Haiti.
Haiti?
Yes. When you've got an enemy in Haiti, you want to get rid of him. You make a doll that looks like him. You put hair from his head on the doll's head. Cloth from his clothes for the doll's clothes. Then you stick a pin in the part of the enemy you want to make hurt. And it works.
Alma.
It does, Miss Dolores. Look at Andrews. Blind because of the hex. Look at Mr. Harvey. Dead in the lily pond. Look at me. Me with my terrible headache. And the pin sticking in the head of that doll.
We'll pull out the pin.
Oh, no, don't. If you do that, I'm sure to die. Right away.
Alma, tell me how you know all this.
I've been listening, Miss Dolores. And watching. For years. I've been watching. And listening. And... Oh, Miss Dolores!
Alma! Alma, what's wrong? Alma, speak to me. Are you all right? Alma! She's dead.
Mr. Lawrence, you feeling better?
Yes, much. How did I get here in my bed, Doctor?
Your aunt found you here, unconscious.
Oh, then I did manage to get here before I fainted. Have you found Alma?
Yes, poor girl. Dead. Brain hemorrhage.
Brain hemorrhage?
Yes.
Where did you find her, Doctor?
In her room. She must have died in her sleep.
No. No, she didn't die in her bed. My aunt must have placed her there.
Dolores. You know the truth.
Do you, Dr. Seabrook?
I've known it for years. I've been watching Warner, your aunt, for years. When Ambrose died, I became suspicious. When your fiancée perished in the lily pond, I was convinced that Warner was using her ancient jungle powers.
Oh, what?
Let me tell you a story. She was married to a wealthy plantation owner in Haiti about 18 years ago. One day, she decided to rid herself of him, so she fed him poison. When he realized what she had done to him, he went off into the jungle to die. But first, he made a will, leaving all his money and property to the baby daughter of his closest friend, a man who had died of jungle fever and whose baby had been taken to America by friends. Warner's husband left his fortune to that baby girl. That girl, my dear, was you. Before the poisoned man died, he sought out a jungle witch doctor and had him make a charm. It was a doll-like image of the woman who had poisoned him. He took a lock of her hair from where he'd always carried it in a gold locket, and the hair became the doll's hair. Then he took a long needle, dipped it in the most potent poison, and plunged that needle again and again into the body of the doll image. The poison was one that brings about instant and complete paralysis of the human muscles.
Paralysis?
Yes. It's a poison well known in Haiti.
He cast a spell upon her, just as she's been casting spells on us.
Precisely.
But her spells were effective. His wasn't.
No spell is effective unless the victim is made aware of its existence. Just a few moments ago, I told your aunt the same story I've told you.
You mean you told her about the spell that was cast upon her years ago?
In an offhand manner. I passed it on to her as just a story I'd heard from a friend of mine in Haiti. I pretended I didn't know that she was involved.
Where is she now?
You feel like getting up?
Yes, I'm all right.
This door leads to your aunt's room, doesn't it?
Yes, it's not locked. Here? Is she in here?
Yes, she's in there.
Oh, she's ill. Aunt Juana, Juana, Doctor, look at her.
The spell she cast upon you is broken now. Your aunt is dead.
But look at her.
Yes. She died instantly of complete paralysis.
Death is a savage deity. Dark fantasy.
During the intermission, our radio show brings to you a cartoon for the record. We now return you to our radio show. Hope you're enjoying today's radio program. When it's done, be sure to check out our channel over at WatchWaddle. Enjoy some tunes with a nice cold soda.
Fed up with shoveling snow? Can't shake that cold of yours? Want to get away from it all?
We offer you escape.
You were alone in a remote village on the Welsh border, surrounded by silent townspeople who were watching and waiting for you to decide to lose your soul.
Escape. Produced by William N. Robeson and carefully contrived to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Today we escape to a remote section of Wales and a strange village between two worlds, as Algernon Blackwood described it in his eerie story, Ancient Sorceries.
I had spent a week's vacation in Wales and was returning to London by train when it all began. It was late afternoon. We'd left the Welsh mountains and crossed the border into western England, passing through a countryside which appeared singularly empty, deserted of life. Over the soft hills and the valleys between hung a faintly perceptible haze, giving to the whole landscape a feeling of enchantment and unreality. The train slowed at length to stop at a tiny wayside station. As it did so, a sudden thought occurred to me. Why not leave the crowded train with its irritating noises and spend the night in this peaceful spot, then take a slower and emptier train in the morning? On the impulse, I rose from my seat, and the man sitting opposite me said,
Why, say, sir, we only stopped here for a minute or two. If you were thinking of walking about a bit.
No, matter of fact, I'm getting off here.
I thought you were going to London.
I'll go on in the morning. I'm going to stay here for the night.
I strongly advise you not to.
I beg your pardon?
This is the village of Malton.
Malton? I've never heard of it.
Few people have, outside. But if you place any value on your soul, you'll not spend the night here.
What are you talking about? Why not?
Because of the sleep. And because of the cats. That's all I can tell you.
You're insane. I'll take my bag now, if you don't mind.
You're making a terrible mistake. You may not even get the chance to regret it. Don't leave this train. I know what I'm talking about.
Oh, what utter nonsense.
Don't, I tell you.
Goodbye. I stood there on the embankment as the train pulled away. What was the matter with the man, anyway? Cats, sleep. His words made no sense. I picked up my bag and started walking up the long hill toward the village, and suddenly, for no reason at all, I shivered. Hello? Hello, is anyone here?
Yes?
Oh, I didn't see you at first.
Is there something I can do for you, sir?
Why, yes, I saw your sign outside the Inn of the Golden Bough. I should like to get a room.
You're planning to stay here?
Why, yes.
Very well. You may sign the register. Here.
Thank you. I'm going to catch another train and go on in the morning.
Yes, of course.
There we are.
Arthur Llewellyn. Llewellyn?
Yes, from London.
Arthur Llewellyn. You've been a long time coming back.
What?
But now that you're here, you'll find there are some things that never change.
Madam, I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about.
You rang, madam?
Don't worry. The gentleman would like a room for the night. His name is Arthur Llewellyn.
Aye, so it is. Welcome back to Malton, sir.
I knew I'd never been here before. What was it all about? First the men on the train, and now these people. Were they crazy, or was I? Oh, well, I left the inn and walked along narrow cobbled streets, beneath quaint gables leaning out from the silent, shuttered houses, through dappled pools of light and shadow. As I walked, it gradually dawned upon me that the village of Malton was centuries old, older than any town in England ought to be. And the people I passed now and then were dressed in the fashion of another day. They paid no attention to me, went silently about their own business. Yes, that was it. That's what I'd been noticing. Silently. As I walked, I noticed they came and went with only soft padding sounds to mark their passing, as though they walked in shoes with soles of velvet. When I stopped, there was no sound. The silence was unbroken. I hurried through the streets and came at last to the far side of the village, to a place where the hill broke away sharply from a low, flat wall of stone, perhaps a rampart once. I sat down upon it, and the dreamy tranquility of the place stole over me. Presently, I don't know how much later, I became aware of the sound of weird music rising out of the vale below me. I looked down from the rampart. The sunken plain at the bottom melted away into a sea of gathering shadow, blurred into a swirl of thickening mist. I thought of dead trees swept by the night wind, of animals with half-human voices singing to a white moon, of the wailing of cats on the roof tiles at night, of unearthly creatures far off in the sky calling to one another in chorus. I felt my heart beat faster and faster, felt the vague stirrings of some urge inside of me trying to answer the awful call of that music. I fought against the feeling, fought against myself. And even as I did, I found I was staring down into that valley, peering desperately into the dark mist, trying to see I don't know what. And then suddenly... the music ended. I stood on the rampart alone, dusk fallen about me, and the early night wind moaned with a chill breath. Quick terror rose up in me. I turned and ran on through the darkened streets, ran with heart pounding, dodging its shadows, through one dim alley after another, and arrived at last panting and almost breathless at the door of the Golden Bough.
You've been a long time returning, Mr. Llewellyn. It's past 7.
Yes, I guess I walked farther than I meant to. I didn't realize it was so late.
You heard the music, didn't you?
Yes. Yes, the strangest music I've ever heard. How did you know? Who plays it, anyway?
Then you didn't remember it?
No. Why should I? The thing was becoming irritating. This quiet insistence that I was someone else. I went into my lonely dinner and ate as quickly as possible. Then, taking the candle Dundreary gave me, I crossed the lobby, climbed the stairs behind the desk, and walked past silent doors down the long, empty hall that led to my room at the end. I was halfway to my door when suddenly the flame of my candle went out. I stood stock still in the pitch blackness, fumbling for a match. And at that moment I knew that someone or something was there with me in the darkness. I held my breath and listened. There was no sound, no movement. I reached out and found the wall and moved along and feeling my way in the inky blackness. It was then I touched it. Near my face, another soft, warm yielding. And alive. Who is it?
It is I, Ilsa.
Who?
Ilsa. Don't you remember me, Arthur?
No.
But wouldn't you like to remember me? Don't you want to see me again? To look at me? Now?
I don't know.
But not tonight, Arthur. Perhaps tomorrow. Tomorrow.
I stumbled blindly through the door of my room and shut it behind me. I lit the candle and flung myself across the bed. The room was small, with one shuttered window, and the light of the flame flickered on the walls and ceiling. I stared at the hand that had touched her out there in the dark hall. I lifted it to my face and smelled the barbaric scent that still clung to my fingers. It was evil and maddening. The candle sputtered and burned, and the melted minutes dripped away. Who was I? Who were these people? Who was Ilsa? I fell asleep finally, and dreamed of soft moving creatures and the silence of life in a dim, muffled world devoid of all feeling but ecstasy. And I dreamed, too, of cats.
You've slept quite late this morning, Mr. Llewellyn.
Morning, Dundreary. I felt as though I'd been drugged.
The night air here in Malton is very conducive to sleep.
I'd meant to catch the morning train to London. Now it's too late.
What a terrible shame.
Yes. Oh, by the way, Dundreary.
Yes, Mr. Llewellyn?
Do you... I mean, I was wondering if you'd know anyone by the name of Ilsa.
Ilsa happens to be my daughter, Mr. Llewellyn.
Oh, I didn't hear you come in.
I hope you were able to sleep well, without unpleasant dreams.
I guess so.
I'm so happy to hear it. Perhaps then you may decide to stay with us for a long time.
That's very kind of you.
No, it's not kindness, Mr. Llewellyn. But all of us are hoping that you may decide soon.
Decide? Decide what? It was no use. None of them would answer my questions. They seem to think I should know already. I left the inn as soon as I'd eaten, walked around the streets of the village. I began to notice I was never completely alone. If I turned down an empty street, someone always stepped from a doorway or entered from the opposite end. Wherever I went, within 5 minutes, a dozen people were strolling near me. And I realized these people were watching me tensely, as a cat watches a mouse or another cat.
It's quite fortunate you came back early, Mr. Llewellyn. Your dinner this evening is a rather special one.
Special? What do you mean by that?
You ought to have a guest.
Oh, who?
An old friend. She's coming now.
The girl who came toward us across the room was lithe and slim. She moved with the sinuous grace of a young panther. She was lovely, exotic, and terrifyingly beautiful.
May I present Mr. Arthur Llewellyn, Miss Ilsa? He's been with us for 2 days.
Yes, I know. My mother told me. May I sit down, Mr. Llewellyn?
Oh, yes, please do. Here, permit me.
Thank you. You may serve us, Dundreary.
Thank you, Miss Ilsa.
Then, you're Ilsa?
Yes. Don't you remember me, Arthur?
From last night. It was you last night, wasn't it?
Yes, and other nights. Can't you remember all the other nights?
No. No.
Then we shall have to try that much harder. It's been such a very long time.
Please, Ilsa. What is it all of you talk about? I don't understand any of it.
You will, Arthur. Unless you leave, of course. Weren't you planning to take a train to London in the morning?
Yes. No. No, I've changed my mind.
I'm glad you did. We'll try to make you happy here, my mother and I. And then perhaps you'll stay a long, long time.
No. I must leave for sure in a day or two.
Suppose we wait and see. And meanwhile, if there's anything you want, all you have to do is ask me.
All right. Why don't you tell me about...
Yes, Arthur? About what?
No. No, I don't want to know. I don't want you to tell me. Suddenly I realized I was afraid to know. I was afraid. I should leave now, but I couldn't leave. It was Ilsa. She attracted, repelled, fascinated, and horrified me, all in single flashes of blasting emotion. I felt the presence of a great grey curtain ready to roll back at any moment and leave me on the brink of an awful adventure. And I knew the village held its breath, watched and waited. And then on the evening of the 5th day, the whole ghastly secret exploded into hideous life. After dinner, Ilsa had asked me to walk with her. It was the first time I'd been outside the inn after dark. We walked through the village in the moonlight, saying very little, and came finally to the stone rampart above the sunken plain. We were quite alone.
Look, Arthur. It's a full moon tonight. Do you know what that means?
Yes. It means I can see more clearly how beautiful you are.
Do you really believe that? Do you think I'm beautiful?
Like a soft, sleek leopard in a warm jungle of shadows. But wait, I'll see you even better in a moment.
Arthur, what are you doing?
These dry leaves by the wall. They'll make an excellent bonfire. There, you see?
No. No.
What's wrong?
The fire. No, Arthur, put it out.
All right, Ilsa. Don't worry, it's all right. There. Didn't even get a chance to get started. There, you see, it's out.
Yes, I see.
Why did it bother you so much?
Don't you remember? Don't you remember the fire?
No. What fire?
No. Don't talk of it. Look at me instead. Look at me, Arthur.
Yes, Ilsa?
Arthur, do you love me?
Yes. Yes, Ilsa, I love you.
I'm glad. That means you'll come back to us then.
I don't know what you mean, Ilsa.
You can know everything. Tonight, if you want to.
Yes, I do. I do, Ilsa.
You must know a part of it already, down inside. You must remember some of it, don't you?
Yes. It's like something buried for centuries, deep inside of me. And now it's beginning to come alive.
Let it come alive. Don't fight against it. You belonged to us once, long ago, and you still belong.
Yes. I seem to know that.
That's why you came back. You heard me calling. You heard them calling. And you came seeking the old life again.
Yes, but... Ilsa, I'm afraid.
Are you afraid of me? Look at me.
Ilsa...
Will you live the old life again? With me tonight?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I've known that you would, because I own you, Arthur. You belong to me, and I want you to come with me. I shall never let you escape from me again.
Yes, yes.
Go back to the inn, then. Wait for me, Arthur. I shall come for you. Tonight.
Back at the inn, I paced the floor of my room, a tense, uncontrollable excitement driving me along in a nervous frenzy. The dry crypt of the memory had broken open, and all the things I'd hidden away for centuries poured into my consciousness. I knew now why I'd come here. I knew what I was going to do. And I knew that I was lost. I sensed the rising stir of movement throughout the inn, and outside in the courtyard below my window. I knew what to expect when I threw open the window. From every window of the inn and from those of the houses about the court were leaping great monstrous beasts with soft dark fur and eyes that gleamed with eerie phosphorescence. Cats! Cats of human size. This was the secret of Molten. Lycanthropy. The witchcraft of centuries long dead and buried. The half-human cries floated up to me, and the moon cast their dark shadows on the ground as they padded across the courtyard and vanished through the narrow streets of the village, heading for a hideous rendezvous. This is what I'd been. This is what I wanted to be now. I scarcely heard the door of the room open behind me.
Are you ready, my love? Shall we join them?
Yes.
Here, Arthur, the sacred bomb, made of vervain and mistletoe and blind things out of the sea. Remember?
Yes. Yes, I remember.
Take it. Use it. We'll change now. Transform. Leap from the window and join them. Lead us again, Arthur.
Yes. But not here, Ilsa. Not yet. Wait until we get there. Then we'll change.
If you wish. Come then, Arthur, to the stone wall above the grove. That's where we'll change, on the stone rampart.
In the grove on the sunken plain beneath the wall, insane shadows writhed in the moonlight and postured in the luminous mist. 1,000 of the devil's own were dancing in an unearthly music born from the harmony of the black sacrifice, crying out in delirious abandon, calling to the thing that now lived inside of me and struggled screaming in my skull, trying to answer them back. I fought against them, fought against Ilsa, pleading and clinging with her soft arms about my neck.
Now, Arthur, come with me now if you love me.
I love you, but I can't do it. I can't do it, not again, Ilsa.
Yes, my love, only an instant to change, and then we'll live forever.
Is it living without a soul?
Does it matter when I'm here?
Oh. No, once before I escaped. But I could never escape again. This time there'd be no turning back.
Am I not worth it? Look at me, my love.
I clung to the very edge of sanity, thought that I'd not be lost and damned forever.
And at that very moment, I knew what I could do.
Wait. What are you doing?
I found a match in my pocket, struck it, dropped it into the dry leaves that lay banked along the whole length of the stone wall.
No. No, Arthur, don't. I can't come to you through the fire. You're driving me away.
Yes, go! Go into the valley, Ilsa! Goodbye, Ilsa! Goodbye!
You fool! You fool!
I turned from the wall of flame that for a few minutes would shut me off from the valley. Ran through the moonlit streets, not back toward the inn of the Golden Bough, but down the long road that led away from that cursed village of Malton.
Well, Mr. Llewellyn, I find this one of the most interesting cases of hallucination I've encountered since I began the practice of psychiatry.
I tell you, it really happened, Doctor.
And having investigated your story a bit during the past week, I'm in a position now to answer most of the questions that have been worrying you since you came back to London.
What do you mean, investigated?
I went up to Hereford and looked over some of the old records there. And then I motored over to Malton for a couple of hours.
Well, then you know it's all true. You saw it. You know I was there.
Oh, there's no question but what you were there, Mr. Llewellyn. The lady who runs the inn showed me your name in the register. Said you'd left quite suddenly without taking your luggage or paying your bill. She was really quite put out.
I see. Well, what about the records, Doctor, the ones you spoke of?
I think they really explain the whole thing, Mr. Llewellyn. It seems that during the 14th century, the village of Malton became a kind of headquarters in that part of the country for the practice of witchcraft.
Yes. Go on.
Numerous trials were held there in the late 1300s, and a great many men and women were convicted of sorcery and burned to death.
Yes.
In the records of a trial in 1372, I found the name of an Arthur Llewellyn and of Ilsa and her mother.
That proves it, then.
It proves a clear case of hallucination. You knew that story before you went there, not consciously, but somewhere down in your latent memory.
I knew nothing of it before.
That man was an ancestor of yours. The story must have been known in your family. When you arrived in Malton accidentally, the association of the name just pulled the trigger, and your imagination did the rest.
But, Doctor, my parents died when I was 4. I've never been around any of my family.
No matter. You see, a childhood memory is amazingly persistent at times.
Yes. Yes, I suppose it is. I knew then what I had to do. The only thing I could do. There'd be no use in talking further with the doctor. He'd find some phrase of science to cover everything. He'd even try to explain away the mark I still carried across my shoulder, where Ilsa had thrown her arm about me in those last mad minutes on the rampart. A mark that was covered with a soft gray fur, like the fur of a cat. Yes, I knew now what had to be done, and must be done while I still retained my sanity. One last act, final and irrevocable. An act that begins by walking into the railway station at Charing Cross.
Good evening, sir. May I help you?
Yes. I'd like a ticket to Malton.
Malton? I don't believe I have.
It's a village on the Swansea line near the border of Wales.
Oh, yes. Yes, here it is. I don't believe I've ever sold a ticket to Malton before.
I don't doubt it.
Let's see now. 4 and 6. Single fare. First class. Did you wish a return or one way? What did you say?
Oh, I'm sorry. Make it one way.
Escape. Produced by William N. Robeson and directed by Norman MacDonald, today brought you Ancient Sorceries by Algernon Blackwood. Adapted for radio by Les Crutchfield, with Paul Frees as Arthur Llewellyn, Kay Brinker as Ilsa, Ann Morrison as Madam, and William Conrad as the Doctor. Music is conceived by Cy Fewer with Eddie Dunstetter at the console. Next week...
After you've had a hard day at the office or bending over a hot stove, next week at this time, when your problems seem too much for you, we offer you escape.
Next week, we bring you another exciting story of high adventure. Goodbye, then, until this same time next week, when once again we offer you Escape. This is CBS, where 99 million people gather every week. The Columbia Broadcasting System.
It's intermission time at the Bah Ghoulie Show. Time to refresh yourself and visit our snack bar. Got a yen for some hot popcorn? How's about your favorite soft drinks, which are sparkling cold? And there's all kinds of candy to tempt you. It's radio time, folks. Enjoy the rest of the program. Hope you're enjoying today's Bah Ghoulie Show by OTR Halloween Holidays. And remember, if your radio has a record player, check out Watchwaddle's Greatest Hits. Nothing like some good old-fashioned spoofs and gags. Available on 16-speed record. Each one comes with a 45 adapter. The Bah Ghoulie Show is brought to you by OTR Halloween Holidays.
Quiet, please. Quiet, please. Mutual Broadcasting System presents Quiet, Please, which is written and directed by Willis Cooper and features Ernest Chappell. Quiet, Please for tonight is called Don't Tell Me About Halloween. I'm going to kill my wife tonight, or maybe tomorrow night. I mean, I'm going to kill one of my wives. I bet her something's going to happen to me that won't be good. Well, Halloween's almost here. Halloween's the deadline, and Candace has to be dead before Halloween. Only trouble is, I'm not sure I'll recognize her when she shows up. You ever been in Salem, Massachusetts? Place where they hanged all the witches? No, they didn't burn them at the stake. A lot of people think so, but they didn't. They hanged them. All except the man witch, old Giles Corey. They pressed him to death. Very unpleasant. Well, it was in Salem this particular Halloween that I met Candace. It was dark up there on the hill where the gallows used to stand. Dark and cold with a damp wind coming in off the sea. And a few little lights you could see in the dusk only made it darker and lonelier and creepier up there. I remember how I shivered as I started down the hill to town. And I remember how I jumped when something that looked like a black cat jumped out of the shadows at my feet. Without thinking, I yelled, "Who's that?" My heart almost stopped beating because
Well, good evening.
I'd been all alone up there. And then, all of a sudden, there was a woman standing beside me.
You're the first human being that's spoken to me tonight.
Who are you?
I'm Candace.
I don't know any Candace.
You didn't, but you do now.
You nearly scared me to death.
Oh, I wouldn't do that to you. What's your name?
Craig?
You like me, Craig?
What? Well, I don't know what you look like.
I like you very much.
Well, but I...
Kiss me, Craig.
Now...
Kiss me, I said. You know, you're going to be a very nice husband for me, Craig.
What do you mean? I'm not going to...
Oh, yes, you are. When I say something's going to happen, it happens, Craig.
But I'm not...
Wouldn't you like to be rich, Craig, and have a beautiful wife? I am beautiful. You'll see. Wouldn't you like to be rich and wise and happy and live forever? Wouldn't you, Craig?
Who the devil are you?
Why, that's a very apt way of putting it, Craig.
Who are you?
I'm Candace.
That doesn't mean anything to me.
I'm the witch they didn't hang, Craig.
Well, she was right. I am rich. Whenever I need money, which hasn't been for a long time now, I ask Candace when she comes to see me at Halloween time. I am reasonably wise, I suppose. I'm quite an authority on American history, quite well considered at the university here. And while I can't say I've lived forever, I have lived 253 years. Now, that's right. You see, I met Candace on the hill above Salem in the year 1694, 2 years after Cotton Mather stopped hanging witches. Yes, Candace has kept her promise. I remember the way she put it, standing up there in the early morning, watching the mists crawling along the ground below us.
You'll not see me now till another Halloween. And I can't tell you what form I'll be in when I come to see you again. But if you see a strange bird or a lost dog, or any strange being at your door come Halloween, you say, "Who's that?" And if it so happens the stranger's me, why then I'll be home with you till the cock crows for morning.
And I remember I started to speak, to ask questions, but she stopped me.
For the time's short now, my love. And remember the word, and we've all the future before us. As long as I live, you shall live.
And below us somewhere a rooster crowed. And I was standing alone on the hill. And a yellow butterfly was rising in circles above my head. I watched it disappear into the first rays of the sun. No, I didn't believe it either. And yet, we were only 2 years away from the witchcraft trials, and whatever may be said today, the belief in witches didn't die as quick a death as modern historians would have you believe. I was there. I know. Besides, I had married a witch. Halloween, 1695, a stray dog lay on my doorstep, shivering in the rain. I don't like dogs. I was about to boot the animal into the street when I caught a look in its eyes. I yelled, "Who's that?"
Well, it's about time. I've been lying there on that doorstep, freezing and nearly drowned without a stitch on, and you stand there and look at me like some great fool. Get me something to put around me and stir up the fire before I take my death of cold. And I do believe you were going to kick me, too. When did I ever see you?
Candace, dear, how was I to know?
Give me that quilt!
Oh, she was all control. contriteness and apologies in a moment. But I can feel that slap alongside my chops from 2.5 centuries ago. And our first anniversary was a very pleasant one. I was rather glad I'd married a witch. It had its drawbacks, though. Despite wealth and growing wisdom, people around me in Salem grew old, and I seemed to stay the same age. I moved away, and the years went on. I moved away from Salem, and I moved away from Philadelphia, and I moved from Baltimore, and Richmond, and Savannah, and a score of other places. I spoke to George Washington, and I watched Robert Fulton's steamboat chug up the Hudson when I was more than 100 years old, and looked 35. And every Halloween I welcomed Candace home for a night. One year in a farmhouse on an Illinois prairie, a red fox whined up my door, and it was Candace. One year a blue jay flew down from a tree in Missouri. And another year, she came as a skittering little gray field mouse. And the year I came back to Wisconsin after the Civil War, a porcupine gnawed its way into my cabin on Halloween night, and one of its quills spiked me before I thought to say, "Who's that?" And when Candace smiled at me, there was only a strand of yellow hair through the thick of my thumb. I remember she pulled it out, and it hurt. Years and years and years. Yeah, she's been a wonderful wife, but I never forget what she is. Once a year is getting to be enough. It was just 67 years ago tonight, before Halloween, you see. That was the first time she appeared before Halloween, 1880. Rutherford B. Hayes was still president then. Yeah, it seems like yesterday. I heard something bumping against the front door, and before I thought, I called out, "Who's that?"
I thought you were never going to call me.
Darling, I didn't know it was you.
Well,
Huh?
don't people kiss their wives anymore?
Darling, you surprised me.
Suppose you surprise me. Well,
How come you're so early, dear?
oh, I just thought it would be nice to surprise you.
You certainly did surprise me.
Did I?
You certainly did.
What's happened since last year?
Why, nothing much.
That's so.
What have you been doing?
I've been away.
Where?
Craig, you'll be better off if you don't inquire too closely into my private affairs. Being married to a witch ought to be enough for you.
I'm just interested, Candace.
Like I'm interested in what you do when I'm away.
What?
I am interested, you know.
I don't know what you're talking about, dear.
You don't?
No.
Don't you ever get lonely while I'm away?
What? Why, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about?
You know what I'm talking about, Craig.
I don't either.
You forgetting that I'm a witch, dear?
What?
You can't keep anything from me, Craig. Don't you know that?
Why,
Oh, I won't punish you, Craig. But you mustn't run around with red-haired girls.
I don't know what you're...
Oh, yes, you do. So I just decided to take that temptation away from you.
Candace, what did you...
Look over there at the window, darling.
And I looked. And peering in the window out of the darkness was a frightened, tiny red squirrel, its teeth chattering with terror and cold.
She's still got her red hair, dear.
Candace, did you do that to her?
Of course, dear. No, don't try to rescue her, Craig. I've got other plans for your little girlfriend.
What are you going to do?
Listen. Now come here and kiss me. Good.
Yes, in some ways it's fine. In some ways. You know, in the last 50, 60 years, I've gotten so I'm afraid to say who's that anytime. Wait a second. Did you hear anything? No, I guess she's not here. I wouldn't want her to surprise me again. I want to surprise her. It's 67 years ago that she set the wolves on that poor little red squirrel that was once Marjorie. I've forgotten her last name. But I haven't forgotten what she did to me. They arrested me for murder. Candace let me stay in jail a whole year. I waited till the next Halloween, 1881, till a little screech owl came and perched on the window ledge of my cell. Even then, it took me half an hour to remember to say, "Who's that?" Oh, sure, yes, she was very sorry, she said. Very sorry, but I had to be punished for being unfaithful to her. Unfaithful? I never even kissed Marjorie. That witch. Believe me, I was pretty careful after I got out of there and moved to Oklahoma. If I had any female acquaintances, I stopped seeing them along in early September. But, Donald, how would you like it if you only saw your wife once a year? And if you knew she could turn you into a caterpillar or a hippopotamus or something whenever she got miffed with you? You'd look around, too, just like I did. She nearly caught me again in Washington, D.C. That was in 1910. I'd been a good boy for nearly 50 years. Well, pretty good, or at least careful. I was standing outside the door of the Willard Hotel that Halloween night. A big moth dropped out of the darkness and lit on my shoulder. Candace likes to be a moth, I think. She's appeared that way 15 to 20 times. Well, I knew at once what it was. My conscience was reasonably clear, so I just said, "Who's that?"
Hello, darling.
Welcome back, Candace, dear.
Been a good boy.
Perfect, darling.
Love Candace?
Mad about Candace.
You better be.
No, Candace.
You living here now? In the hotel?
I hope you like it.
I've never been in Washington before.
We go sightseeing tomorrow.
Oh, I saw quite a lot of it. Flying in.
Yes?
Who's that woman?
What woman?
Why, Craig, darling, where on earth have you been?
Yes, I thought Gertrude was in Chicago where I'd left her. Wasn't that just my luck? I don't know what Candace did to her. She just disappeared. But you know what that witch did to me? She turned me into a fire alarm box. Don't laugh. It isn't funny. From October 31st, 1910 till October 31st, 1911, I stood there in front of the Willard Hotel, rain and shine, snow and boiling hot weather. And nobody even turned in an alarm on me. Of course, they did paint me in the spring. Then at 11:30 on Halloween, a little black dog came by. I tried to say, "Who's that?" And I made it all right because I could hear gears clicking and wheels turning, and there we were, Candace in a black fur coat, and me in a blue serge suit all plastered with red paint.
You look perfectly awful, Craig.
Well, how do you think I feel? Oh, my feet.
Well, now maybe you won't be chasing other women, my dear.
Candace, I promise I'll never do it again.
You'd better not, sweetheart. I'm a very jealous woman.
So I noticed.
And if you think that was bad, how would you like me
No,
to...
Candace, please. No. Don't tell me.
You may kiss me now. Oh. And don't get paint all over my coat.
Candace can be very sweet when she wants to be. But these last 30 years, she doesn't seem to want to be very much. She spends most of the time she's here asking me questions about what I've been doing, where I've been, the people I've seen. And, friend, I'm getting awful tired of it. 253 years is a long time. A long, long time with a jealous wife. So I'm going to get rid of her. This time I'm done. No, I don't love Candace anymore. I'm afraid of her. I told you I got this job here at the university in the history department. And I've got this little cottage up here in the hills where I go every Halloween. Well, I don't want Candace barging in on faculty row. Well, I'm not supposed to be married here. And you know faculty people. So, I've decided to end it all this year. I'm going to kill Candace. But that is, I hope I am. When she appears, I'm not going to say who's that. I'm going to kill her. And then Alicia and I are going to be married. Oh, didn't tell you about Alicia. Here comes Alicia now. I'd like to have you meet her. This is Alicia.
How do you do?
Alicia and I are going to be married.
Yes, indeed. Right after Halloween.
Alicia's secretary to the Dean of Women.
That's how I met Craig.
Well, I hope you don't mean to imply I was flirting with the Dean, Alicia.
Oh, goodness, no, dear. I mean, you were being introduced to her when we first saw each other.
Oh, darling. I'll never forget it.
Oh, I won't either.
Isn't she pretty?
Oh, Craig, you mustn't talk that way to strangers.
Oh, I'm sorry, dear, but you are pretty.
But I'm so much younger than you are, Craig.
Well, you are a little younger, dear, but that won't make any difference, will it?
Oh, not to me, darling.
Excuse us a second. Darling, I love you.
Oh, darling, I love you.
Kiss me.
Oh, but they're looking, sweetheart.
Shut your eyes a second, will you, please? Now, darling.
Craig, dear.
You like her? Quite a girl, isn't she? Nothing at all like Candace. Man, am I tired of Candace. Wait a second, the phone's ringing. I'll be right with you. Hello?
Hello, darling. This is Alicia.
Hello, dear.
Are you going up to the cabin today?
I'm just leaving, darling.
Oh, I wish I could go with you.
Well, I do, too, but I'll be back in a day or so.
Oh, couldn't I, please?
No, dear, no. You know it can't be done.
I wish I could.
Well, it isn't practicable, dear. I'll hurry back.
I could drive up tomorrow.
I'll probably be back tomorrow.
I'll miss you.
I'll miss you.
I just wanted to say goodbye.
I love you.
I love you.
See you in a day or so, honey.
All right. But I wish I could go along.
It can't be done, sweetie.
I might drive up and surprise
No,
you.
don't do that. Alicia, wait. Oh, my gosh, she can't do that if she doesn't. Hello. Get me 3412J. Well, so here I am. I wish I could have got Alicia back on that phone. If she comes up here, she'll... Oh, well, she won't. She's got better sense. Yeah, let's see. What time is it? Well, let's see. Revolver with a silver bullet. The old Revolutionary War bayonet I had at Valley Forge. The Bowie knife Dave Crockett gave me. Pretty well fixed. Come on, Candace, honey. Come on. Just come on in. This time you can come ahead of time, baby, and Papa will be waiting for you. And then, Alicia. She's an owl or something this time. Wait a minute. Oh, if she's an owl, I better get that shotgun out. Now, Candace. Look out. What the dickens was that? Oh, a moth. A moth, eh? Well, Candace. Here, where's that Saturday Evening Post? Light somewhere, darling. Light. There. Oh, mister, you're not going to get away this time, sweetheart. Get away from that lamp. Get away, I say. I got you. Oh, you're not dead yet. Well, I'll...
Never mind, Craig.
What?
Never mind. I'm going to die, all right.
Who's that?
It's too late, Craig. You've killed me. But haven't you forgotten something, darling?
What did I forget?
You forgot what I told you back there on the hill at Salem, sweetheart. You'll live just as long as I live. And when I die, you'll die.
Oh. Candace, let me help you.
It's too late, darling.
Forest Ranger Station? Oh, hello, Brad. This is Joe Thomas. Listen, Brad, you better call the county cops or somebody. Well, I don't know. Well, I'm at the little cabin halfway up Latigo Canyon. You know, the one with the red shutters? Yeah, well, I was on my way up to the station, see, and I meet this girl. Please be quiet, will you, lady? This girl in her car's busted down. Well, I picked her up, and she wants to come up here. What's your name, lady?
Alicia Dean.
Alicia Dean. So she's going to meet this fella here, she says, and I left her out, and I was just starting away, and I hear her scream. Scream, you know, holler. So I stop and run inside, and she's yelling her head off. Lady, please. Yeah, I don't know, Brad. It sure looked awful strange. No, there wasn't no guy here. No, nothing but a squashed moth. One of them big death's head moths, you know. And a skeleton. Yeah, a skeleton. All dried up and dusty. Like it was maybe 250 years old. And that's all. Just him and the moth. Funny, ain't it?
Listen to Quiet Please, which is written and directed by Willis Cooper. The man who talked to you was Ernest Chappell. And Jarita Bauer played Candace, Alicia was Peggy Stanley, and the Forest Ranger was Jim Bowles. The music for Quiet Please is composed and played by Gene Perazzo, except, of course, for our theme, which, in answer to many queries, is based on the second movement of the Symphony in D minor by Cesar Franck. Now, for word about next week's Quiet Please, here is our writer-director, Willis Cooper.
Take Me Out to the Graveyard. That's the title I've got for next week's story. Come along for the ride, won't you?
So, until next week at this time, I am quietly yours, Ernest Chappell. Quiet Please comes to you from New York. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.